Hi, my name is Brian Knight from Pragmatic Works, and in today's video, you're going to learn how to build a component library, and specifically a menu component in that component library to create complete reusability across your organization in Power Apps. So stay tuned. In Power Apps, one of my pet peeves is having to copy and paste the same component over and over and over again that does similar or the same functionality. A good example of that might be what we're doing today, like a menu component, where you want to light up a sidebar or a horizontal bar that shows what screen you're on and how to navigate to the next screen. Let me show you what I mean. The component we're going to build today is going to look like this. This is like a classic iPhone or an Android kind of screen where I have a list of tabs. This is horizontal, where I have a list of tabs, and when I click on keypad, it would then launch that keypad and highlight that as blue. Now, in today's video, we're going to build something very similar to this with an icon and a name on the top of it. We'll go vertical in order to go ahead and make this menu structure in this application right here. In other words, we don't want to have to go through and copy and paste the same component over and over and over again. So let's see how we can do this. Our first step is going to be to build the component library itself. Then we're going to build the menu component, and then we're going to implement that component across all three of the screens that you're seeing here. So those are our three steps to make that happen. So let's start by building our menu component first. To do this, I'm going to go over to make.powerapps.com. Okay, let me go back here again. And at make.powerapps.com, I'm going to go over to apps and component libraries. I'm going to build a new component library. This is a preview feature, but it is very, very stable. I haven't had any issues with this since its preview release. And let's just call this just YouTube component library. Okay. Now, this component library, is a shared component library you can use across your entire organization. So you might decide, I'm going to put all my shared code inside of this, and allows for one developer to be building the library out while other developers are now using the components in that library. So it allows you to have a little bit of reusability, but it also allows you to have multiple developers have hands on keyboard when building out a set of applications. So first thing you'll notice here, I've got our basic application screen here ready. It looks just like you're building an app. In my case though, we're building a component 1 right now. And I'm gonna go ahead and relabel that. Let's just call it component, how about menu? And I'll put a underscore H on it so I know it's, V for vertical in my case. Now, we can also see here that we might want to have a certain height. So one thing we could do, if you wanted to, for this component, I can go ahead and select the width and the height of the component. And if I want to not hard code it, but actually have it stretch out for the width of the screen, I could go something like app.width, or app.height, for this. We'll take the whole height of the screen, and maybe I multiply that times 0.75, so I'm not occupying the entire screen, but 75% of it, or maybe half of it, or whatever that number is for you. I'll go with 70% for the time being, just to kind of start with. My width side here, I will hard code that, but you get the idea now. Let's just go maybe 200 pixels wide. Okay. So again, our goal is going to have these icons vertically placed, and to do that, we have to create a table, and we'll pass a table in of what menu items we want to show inside that. So to do that, we'll go to the right side here where it has component properties. And we're going to create a few properties here. One will be the color of the active color. So when I have that item selected, like you're seeing back in that previous screen, when I have contacts selected, what color do you want to show? And then a passive color. When I don't have keypad selected, what should be shown there? So to do that, we'll create two color properties. One will be select color, and that is, these are properties that will be passed in by the developer consuming this component. So we'll make that an input property, and that will be a color. Okay, I'll go ahead and create on that one. And then I'll also create one more property here called passive color or unselected color or whatever. All right, not very creative names, but you get the idea. We can also put a description here, the color of the icon that is not selected, or something like that. So that way your developers that are using this can then see that as well. It'll be an input property, and this too will be a color. Next, we want to go ahead and have potentially a table of all the icons that we want to show. In other words, I would have a table in this case with 5 different rows in that table to create this look and feel that you're seeing here. So to do that, let's go ahead and create a new property. This will be called, call this just menu items, enable that. And it is items because we have multiple items inside of here. This property is going to be an input property again, and we'll make this one just, let me get my face here so you can see all that. There we go. Let's make this one a table property. By making it a table, it's going to create a sample table for us to kind of work with. But once we've done that, I'll go ahead and create that. Now those are our 3 properties we'll work with right now. You can of course add more if you wanted to as well. Each of these properties is going to show up in that drop-down box, a property drop-down box on the top left. So we now have this done. So let's go ahead and let's add our gallery in next. So I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to go to Gallery. You might find Gallery on the far right here, and I'll do a blank vertical gallery. That blank vertical gallery will have the icon up top and the name of the icon right below it. So we'll select blank vertical gallery. We'll then, all right, let me go ahead and again, you can kind of, if you want to make this more responsive, I'm basically hard coding when I do that. It's not a good practice, right? So I could take that gallery and go to my width property of the entire gallery and say, let's just say it's going to be app.width, or sorry, parent.width. In other words, take whoever's above me, the component in this case, and take its width property, which you can see right now it's 200 pixels wide. And you do the same thing for the height property as well. That way it occupies all the space you want. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my height property of the gallery. And right now, that's a weird number. We'll go parent.height. Okay? So now we're occupying the entire box. You could, of course, resize that however you want. So we're now going to put a table inside of here, but before we do that, let's do a few things. I'm going to go ahead and drop in an icon and then drop in a label. So let's drop in our label. There we go. We see I have 3 rows right now. Not great, but we'll fix that in a moment. All right. And I'll skinny that down a little bit. And then we'll make that nice and centered. And that font size is way too big for what we want. I'll just go 18 font to kind of fit everything in there. And then we also want an icon. So I'll go to Insert and we'll drop an icon in there. And I'll just put whatever sample icon I want right now. This will just be a sample one right here. And you could also, if you wanted to, make it as big or as little as you want. I'm going to kind of center this, and you could put, you can make that dynamic if you wanted to as well. So we could, take the label right here and put it right center with that if you wanted to as well. All right, so I'm going to kind of shrink this up a little bit, move that accordingly, kind of shrink it down a little bit, move it accordingly, shrink this down, and that should be about how we want it. And you can, of course, adjust this to your own heart's content here. There we go. And I'll kind of move that up there. All right, now we'll go ahead and take this and shrink it down as well. So we're looking at a 4-table column right now. And so now we have created that table property. We want to wire that table property to this, but we first need to go ahead and modify that table property. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and select the entire component. I'm going to go to my tree view, pick the whole component. I'm going to go over to Advanced here, and you'll see in the Advanced area, we have a menu items property. That's our default property for this. I also prefer to go over here instead and get that from that way instead. So up to you. Now we're going to go ahead and create a single menu item. We can also do 2. We'll do 2 for the fun here. And you'll notice it has a sample table. So the first one will be menu item. Okay. Let me get rid of that extra space there. Menu item. Okay, sample menu item. Okay. Then we're going to have a few more fields. We have an icon name. Okay. This would be just to go ahead and pass in some kind of sample icon. I'll use icon.smile, or there we go. That'll work. That'll be some kind of sample icon I can use. And then I need a screen name of where I'm going to route you whenever you click on that. And for that, we want to pass in some type of screen name that we can use so it recognizes it as a control and not text. So for this, I'm just going to type in app dot, and then we'll see active screen, and that will then tell it that, hey, this is now a screen control, not just regular text in this case. And if you wanted to, you can just go ahead and copy and paste this one time to create 2 menu items, so you can kind of play with the alignment and all. I'm going to create 2, and I'll call this sample menu item 2. There we go. And I'll go with one more here just to kind of, let's do add, that's fine. All right, so good. So I picked 2 icon names, 2 sample rows. I'm pointing the same screen, so it's going to give us a little bit of problems later. This is just a stub record. It doesn't mean anything. When the developer first drops this in, they're going to see 2 items in the menu. One will have an add button, and one will have a smiley face. Okay, so that's all it is. Now that we have that, though, we're going to pass in that from our application. But a few more things. I'm going to wire that up now to this. So to do that, I'll just go ahead and go to my item, item property for the gallery. Okay, so in the gallery, see, it has this custom sample right now. I'll go ahead and call this instead. I think we called it, what was the component called? It's called com. There it is, com menu v. And when I do dot, it's going to show me all the custom component, all the custom properties that we created. Menu items is what I want to do. All right, you can see we're running a little bit wide here. We also, it's not recognizing the right things right now, and that's okay. We'll fix that now. So the first one is that item, that text for that. Right now it's icon name. So we'll just change that to, I think it was called menu item. There we go. And we icon right here. Let's go ahead and change that icon property. Not cancel bridge, but maybe this item. Whoa, got a little caps lock on there. Dot, and there should be an icon name right there. Okay. So now we can really do some alignment now and fix this problem, because we are a little bit big for what we want. This item here is a little bit small. That should now take care of roughly what we want. There's also some a little legwork we want to do here as well. So for example, on these 2 properties here, if you click on those 2 properties, so the on selected that, we can make it on the whole cell if you want to as well. But for this, the on select property, we want to route you over to the screen that you select. So that'll be the navigate function. I'm doing the whole cell in this case. So navigate over to screen name, and you can do whatever kind of fade effect you want to do or whatever you wish to do there. Okay. So now that we've done that, we now have this now selected, ready to go. We have our icon now dynamic. This now dynamic. There's a few little more touches that we could do if we wanted to. Like for example, for these 2 items right here again, if this is the screen you're on, it would be nice to light that as blue. If you're not on that screen, it'd be nice to have it as gray. So let's try that next. So I'll go over here and let's do the color property. Find my color property. There we go. This is the color property for both of these items right here. So what I'll do is I'll say if this item dot screen name right there. If this item dot screen name. So if I'm on this screen, if the screen name is equal to app dot active screen, the screen that you're on right now, that's the active screen that's lit up on your application. If those 2 are equal, then let's go ahead and take the component menu. There it is. Take its active color. What do we call that? We call it something else. We call it select color. Else, let's use the other color. Which other color? Think passive color or something like that. Com menu. All right. Dot. And let's find unselected color. Very creative names there. All right, so now you're seeing everything is now black. So we want to go ahead now and kind of tweak that a little bit. So to tweak that, we can go over to the menu here, and you'll see we have some sample colors right here. Oh, let me go to the actual component here. And you'll see under advanced properties here that we do have the selected color and the unselected color as the same thing. So if you wanted to kind of set some preliminary colors, you can absolutely do that. So that way it works upon first dropping it into the code. So I'll go ahead and just make a quick color change here. We'll do 20 to 200. Let's see what that does to our color. Oh, that's red. That's pretty awful on it. Let's go with 200 and 200, and let's see what that does. There we go. Okay, that'd be good for the inactive color. Okay, and we can go ahead and make this a little bit less fancy here. There we go, something like that. All right. I realize it's pretty terrible, but we'll go with what we have here. Actually, I'll make this black, and then we can, of course, make that different in a moment here. All right, there we go. That's good enough. All right, so that's our active color, and then right now it's lit up because this is the app.screen name is equal to that, and I had the same screen name for both of these. That's why it's lit up right now. We can do some more tweaks, but this is a good starting point. Let's go ahead and save this component now. I'll call it YouTube Component Library. I'll go ahead and save it. You then would want to publish it if you haven't already, or if you're adding this to an existing component. In my case, you also want to share this with others in your team, so you can now use this across the entire team. Now, how do we use this in our application? So I've got my app already open, and I'm going to use this right inside of the space that you're seeing here. So to do that, I'll hit the plus button on the left area. At the very bottom, it says Get More Components. When I select that, it'll find there's my YouTube component right there, and there's my component, vertical component right there. So I'll hit Import. That then brings it over, and under Library Components, I can select it, and it's going to drop it in right there. This is kind of, as I move it around, it's all one big component. Then I can go over and say, yeah, let's take the selected color, and I want to make that nice bright blue. There we go. And the unselected color, I'll keep that as nice and gray. And we can also change the fill color if we wanted to on that to something like white. There we go. So it kind of looks a little bit better maybe. That's subjective, of course. But we can kind of make that look something like this to kind of fill it in. Okay. Now, our last step is we could now go ahead and clone this, but we actually need a list of screens that we want to really put inside of here. So you'll see that when I hit the drop-down box for this component, we have menu items, and we actually have each of those screens that we selected earlier. Now in our case, though, we don't want to use that. We want to use our own component. So I'm going to go over to the app area, and I'm going to go ahead and copy this table here, and we're going to kind of steal a little piece of this here. Okay, and I'm going to select the word app inside the tree view. And I'm going to create a collection that we're going to use over and over again. So that way we can easily add more screens. I'm going to do this on the onStart event of the screen of the app right here. So as I go down here, all right, let me put a semicolon right here so we can actually add our stuff very easily. And I'll paste in that. Now, obviously, we can't use a table here because it's not going to really have much life here. But let's go ahead and do a clear collect or a collect. I'll just do clear collect, just in case I run it twice. And then we got to give it a name. We'll call it COL menu, comma. And then this is our menu item. So let's call the first one, how about we call that home? And I'll use icon dot, maybe home. Is there a home? There is a home. Our next screen name, and our screen name for that will be, I'll just call it screen 1, which matches what you see over here. See screen 1? That's what matches that. And then the second screen will be screen 2. And I believe this one is my vendor screen. So I'll call this just vendor creation. And then I'll create one more. And of course, if you're lazy like me, you can hit format text and it kind of moves it like this, so you can kind of easily copy and paste. Okay, and the last one will be contract creation. Oop. And this will be icon.money. Let's see, is there money here somewhere? There's money. All right, and then for the vendor, maybe we do a person instead. Icon.person, there's people. And you can find out these icons really easily by just dropping in one. And then, so I go over to insert here, dropping in an icon of whatever I want. And then when I pull this down the top right, that's the name that you want to go with right there. So you can find whatever name you wish. All right, so with that now done, let's go ahead and instead of menu items, let's go ahead and wire this up to COL menu. This is blank right now, so our last step is to run the onStart event. I'll go to app, select the little ... and hit run on start. Oh, look at that. There we go. Now I can go to vendor creation and it will light up. But I'm going to go ahead and cheat a little bit here. I'm going to copy that, go home, paste it in there, go to vendor creation, paste it in there. But the important part, I know I'm copying and pasting here, but I'm copying the same component. over and over again. There's nothing to actually create here. And those icons are a little big, a little obnoxious right now, but we can skinny all that down, of course. But if I were to make a change, for example, I want to skinny these icons down, how do I reflect that change? Well, if I go back to my component, which was right here, and I want to kind of make these icons a little bit skinnier, like that, and skinny this down maybe to not an 18 font, but maybe a 14 font. There we go. Bump it in there. Something like that might be acceptable. Okay, and then because I did that, I can also skinny this up a little bit as well. All right, so now that I've done that, let me kind of move that a little bit closer. There we go. Now that I've done that, I'll go ahead and save it, and then I'll publish it. And now it's not available until I publish that component. Now, the next time any developer opens that as using this component, it will automatically prompt them for, hey, there's been an update. Do you want to use this update? Now, I don't want to have to go there and close my application out and reopen it again. So in our case, we're going to go back to our application again. All right here. And I'm going to go back to my plus button. Now, this isn't especially obvious, but we're basically trying to prevent ourselves from having to open and close the app. I'll go over to here, and where it has a little 3 dot right here, ellipsis. I'm going to hit ... check for updates. It's then going to prompt me. Somebody's updated this on this time. And when I hit update, oh, the magic happened, and now we're smaller. So now each of these components are now complying with our new size requirements now as well. Pretty snazzy. Now, of course, we have a lot of work we can do on this to really refine it, make it perfect, but that's the nuts and bolts of it, though, to make a reusable component. Now, after you do that, you can go through and add more. It doesn't have to be just one component. I can go through and add other components now on this just as easily. So hit the new component button and keep on slapping together other ones. Common ones you can see would be things like menus. You might have a tab system. You might have ones for doing like a workflow, like seeing the lifespan of a workflow, like a business process workflow. There's a ton of components that are already out there that I'll share a link with you down below on the Microsoft website. There's some great ways of kind of cheating, right? Having somebody else build that amazing code and you just implement that code also. This is one way of doing it. You also, by the way, if you don't see it using it outside of this one area, I could also have gone to insert custom and done a component here as well. But by doing it this way, I have to basically import the file in. So by doing it that way, I don't get that full reusability across multiple applications without having to basically bring it, import it into each application. So that can take a little time to do that sometimes. All right, this was a Canvas component. There is also something called Pcf Components, which are model-driven and also used elsewhere in Power Apps as well. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did enjoy this, if I won you over here, hopefully, please do subscribe to us. We love your feedback as well down below. If you have any questions, please feel free to add those questions down below. I'll be answering those questions live for the first couple hours of this video. Also, if you have any other needs, like around training, we train at pragmaticworks.com. We train companies all around the world, and we do these things called hackathons and virtual mentoring. Virtual mentoring is where we help you when you get stuck, and hackathons where we teach you with your own problems, not with our sample data and all that. Well, thanks again for watching today. Have a great day, and I'll see you next on our next video. Goodbye.